Welcome, friends. Our guests today are Martin and Norma Sarvis from Jerusalem. They represent the leadership of Succat Hallel in Jerusalem. Martin, what is Succat Hallel?
Succat Hallel was established 15 years ago with a vision for raising up as near as possible, raising up worship and intercession, ministry to the Lord as near as possible to the location where David, King David, brought the ark and the presence of the Lord into Jerusalem.
Could you explain what is ministry to the Lord?
Worship, intercession, hearing what pleases Him and doing that. It's being in His presence. This is not a ministry for evangelism or for training or nurture. We leave that to the congregations in the area. But the desire is to raise up a place of continual ministry to Him. Because David, when he brought the Ark of the Covenant with the presence of the Lord into Jerusalem, he set it up near the Gihon Springs on Mount Zion, and he put a tent over it, and he set up worshipers who worshiped day and night, ministered to the Lord 24 hours a day for about 31 years. And so the vision was to, as near as possible, set something like that up in Jerusalem, where there would be continual ministry to the Lord before Him.
So if I understand you well, Succat Hallel is kind of a 21st century continuity of Tabernacle of David.
That's exactly right, yes. It's of that tent, or that sukkah. A sukkah is a little shelter. It's what the children of Israel stayed in when they were out in the desert. And it can be a tent. And so that is, as the tent was over this place of the presence of the Lord, Succat Hallel, sukkah, is a tent or a tabernacle. And so we've set, the idea is that this is a place where there is praise going on, Succat Hallel. And praise is a form of ministry to the Lord.
I assume it is attractive ministry to the Lord that is attracting His glory to come, His presence to appear.
That is the desire, the strong desire. The Lord says in the book of Zechariah that He will be a wall of fire around Jerusalem, and but He will be our glory within. And so our desire is that the glory return to Jerusalem as we minister before Him. He inhabits the praises of Israel. And so as Israel praises and worships there, and there are people from many places, many congregations who come and take part in this.
It is incredible because 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you coordinate this ministry. How is it possible that you have enough people to participate in this continuous worship?
God provides, but we have people who come visit for a week, 2 weeks. We have interns who come for 3 months. We have people who come in and out of Israel for years. We have Israelis. So God just sends the teams and the staff, and sometimes a tour group will call and say, we would like 2 hours, and we give them 2 hours. So it's really international. It's Asia, it's Europe, it's North America, it's South America. The world comes through the doors.
So if I understand you correctly, Norma, are we, as representing international church, the body of Christ outside of Israel, are we also welcome there?
Very
just to participate
welcome.
in that?
You can come just be part of something already going on. If you want to do an hour or 2 hours, just your group, that's also possible. Yeah, and we have children, we have Arab watches, we have Hebrew watches, we have Spanish watches, we have French watches, whatever language, God understands them.
When we say watch, that means, as it does in the military, when it's your turn to go on watch, you are to go and you are to be alert during that time for whatever your responsibility is. And so our responsibility, we feel, is for an hour or 2 hours to go and be on alert to what is God saying? What would please Him right now? How can we minister to Him for our watch? And when our watch is over, Yeshua, Jesus, said at one time, couldn't you just watch with me for 1 hour? So our desire is to minister in His presence to what is His pleasure during that time. This is something, it didn't begin 24/7. You asked about the number of people. It began by meeting in homes, a few hours at a time, a few days a week in Jerusalem 15 years ago. And gradually more people came and joined with us. And eventually we found another place where we were able to actually do it at night. And now for about 8 years, there has been someone there 24/7. Sometimes it may be a large group in there, a group who's come from another country who are leading a worship watch for 2 hours. Sometimes it may be one lone girl or guy sitting there with their guitar ministering to the Lord, is the only person there, but there's always someone there. And I would just also add that this is not something that's at all unique with us. It's something that God is doing around the world, setting up houses of worship and intercession, where it can make an opening into the heavens, where the atmospheres will be changed and over different countries. There are thousands of houses of worship and intercession in Indonesia, for instance, right now. Succat Hallel has had a part in helping to establish and nourish houses throughout the Middle East. There's a place in Dubai, there's a number of them in Turkey, in Egypt, and different places, so that we are in contact with as well. We began in homes and then into another place, and eventually the Lord placed us on the side of the Ben Hinnom Valley, which is directly across from Mount Zion.
Well, I love the location where you're located now, just close to Mount Zion, seeing the walls of Jerusalem, but also seeing Mount of Olives. Right. So while you just are on guard in the walls of Jerusalem, you still keep an eye on the Mount of Olives in case that Jesus returns.
In case He returns. Yeah. It is a blessing. It's been about 1.5 years since He moved our older location to a new one, where directly in front of us is the mountain, the Temple Mount, where He is going to reign, and to the right of that is the Mount of Olives, where He will return.
Norma, you mentioned that also children are part of Succat Hallel. How do you train them? How do you prepare them for this ministry?
I have a session where I just teach them to pray, teach them to worship, teach them to dance with the Lord. These are 4 to 8-year-olds. And then after my slot, there's 8 to 12 years old. And there are 13 or 14 musicians in that group. We have 2 worship bands out of that group who are writing songs, learning to worship. And they actually want my time slot because they want more time. But we're just training up Levite families, Levitical families, where the parents are part of it. Sometimes the children are part of it. And it's just training. They know what worship and prayer is because their parents are in the worship room all the time. So, you know, the Lord showed me that healing is the children's bread. And I thought, I'm going to teach these children to pray for healing. So we invite people who are sick to come. And the first time they did it, someone had something wrong with their ear or something, and they just jabbed their finger in their ear to pray for healing. But they're just learning to be gentle and not hurt people when they pray for them, and just hear the Spirit as they pray. So.
From the beginning, we have felt that the desire was that this would represent what is called the one new man, where both Jew and non-Jew are coming together as one in Messiah.
This is awesome. Mm-hmm.
And so, from the very beginning, Norma and I are Israelis. We were a part of it. Richard Ridings and his wife Patty were from the United States originally, and it was their original vision, and we were a part with a number of others. So there were both Jews and Gentiles from the beginning. Since then, there have been people from many different nations who've come to be a part, but we're very encouraged that there has been an indigenous growth, especially in the last few years, of Israeli young people especially, and now I would say around half of those who are participating as leaders are from Israel, both Jewish and Arab believers.
I don't know if anyone made this remark to you before, But for me, you, Martin and Norma, you represent this one new man as a couple, as a marriage. Man American, you Hebrew, and you have a new quality now, just complementary, just now leading this ministry of worship.
That's true.
Thank you.
We both actually from America, but Norma
I'm
was Jewish and I was a Gentile. I am a Gentile. I don't believe that I became Jewish by marrying Norma or moving, but I did become an Israeli citizen. But yes, one new man. A little like Ruth, who came as a Gentile and was brought in, and her God and her Boaz, well, her mother, her mother-in-law, your land will become my land, she says to her, and your people will become my people, and your God will become my God. And so in God's grace, He not only brought us together, but brought us into the land together. And
if I can say so, you represent the masculine representative of Ruth, and you represent the feminine representative of Boaz, when I look at you and the ministry that you do together. I have a question for you, Martin. Psalm 122 said that we should pray for peace of Jerusalem, and God said that He wants to reward with kind of a rest for those who pray for peace of Jerusalem. Could you explain, because I suspect that in the original language it may have a little bit different meaning than we normally popularly understand it.
First thing I would like to say is that anyone who comes to the Lord and says, Lord, today I'm praying for the peace of Jerusalem. I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. That is wonderful. But in the Hebrew, it's something a bit deeper than that. The word pray usually is a Hebrew word, lahit palel. That is the word that generally is translated to pray. But there's a different word here. The word is lish'ol or sha'al. And over 78 times in this word appears in the Hebrew Bible, but only one time have translators decided to translate this pray. It's never translated pray anywhere else. This word means to ask. It means to inquire of.
So not so much ask for, but get information about then.
Yes. And so what this verse is actually, I believe this verse is actually deeply saying is to ask after or inquire concerning the peace of Jerusalem, the shalom of Jerusalem.
Okay, so then just when we read pray for peace for Jerusalem, it's rather originally that we ask God, how do you see her condition, her shalom? Does it look like from your perspective? Yes?
Very good. Yes. It means exactly that. And even a little deeper, because the word shalom actually is drawn from a root, shalem. And the word shalem means wholeness, that which, complete wholeness. And so when we ask after the shalom of Jerusalem, we're speaking about the wholeness. Are there places that she is not whole, Lord, about which I may pray today? When we meet each other, it's an expression that's used often in Israel every day by all of us. When we meet someone on the street, we say, Ma shlomcha, if it's a man, or Ma shlomech if it's a woman. And what does that mean? It means, how are you? But the deep, actual, literal meaning is, how is your shalom? How is your wholeness today?
It's interesting. So it is not shalom to you, but then more, how is your shalom? How is your wholeness?
How is your wholeness today? And it's very interesting, in the 15th chapter of Jeremiah, there is a very moving verse which says, Jerusalem, who will ask after your shalom? Who will ask how your shalom is? And it uses the exact word that's used in Psalm 122, where God says, instructs us, asks about the shalom of Jerusalem. He loves for us to ask Him about these things rather than just coming and trying to do it without knowing. And I believe that when we asked Him, He will show us or our group, or our family, whoever is, or our church, whoever is asking about the shalom of Jerusalem today.
So would you agree with me then this kind of approach is like asking God to give us spirit of wisdom and revelation, how we should then pray for Jerusalem and for Israel?
Yes, I do. And I think with that, the second part of the verse, may those prosper or be at peace who, or be at ease who love her. And so it seems that those who love her will want to know how her condition is and ask God. And in doing that, it will release grace over us as well as we do that.
So can I paraphrase this, that God wants to reward those who are inquiring Him, how does the wholeness of Jerusalem look like, and are open for the spirit of wisdom and revelation to pray according to God's desire and prophetically release His desire over Jerusalem.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's very inspiring. I think we've been inspired and instructed how to pray for Jerusalem, asking Lord for revelation and wisdom then. How is the wholeness of Jerusalem? At the end of this interview, you'll see the web address of Succat Hallel. Please go into this web, just find more information. And when planning a trip to Jerusalem, plan a time, spend a time in Succat Hallel, inviting God's presence and getting a revelation how to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Martin and Norma, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shalom.